Oh my gosh, I surprised my friends with this news and they were so happy. My past self made these decisions for current me, but current me is like, oh, almost $200,000 in tuition for not a good reason. And for women, because we have a biological clock, time does not stop for anyone. Sean and I just made some sudden, crazy life decisions. Oh, and he's my husband now, by the way. That's cool. Still so weird to say that because it makes me feel like I'm old. But anyway, so let me back it up. And of course, there are some important life lessons as always. So for some context, oh, this is so wild. So I moved to New York City with Sean, who is my fiance, in July of 2023. So that was 2 years ago. It was for Sean attending business school at Columbia. And then as for me, I was working in consulting at a boutique firm in LA prior to that, and I was working on my YouTube channel. However, I could not continue working remotely at my consulting firm, so I quit and decided to jump into YouTube full-time. I also worked on the side at some startups because I was just scared of being my own boss and like everything hinging on my success financially wise. And so I was not technically full-time creator as like my main source of income. And to be fair, I actually did not want to stay in consulting any longer because I did not like it. It was not for me. I knew I was not going to stay here long-term for sure. And so the move was just really the catalyst to make me find more reassurance in actually doing it because I had a reason to leave, I guess. A cool note about this is that I quit consulting when I was nowhere near financially ready to sustain myself as a YouTuber. So I was only at like 16,000 subscribers or something. And that September 2023 is when I had one of my first videos like actually blow up, and I was really able to capitalize upon that momentum because I found my place in the YouTube world. I also found that I was a little more willing to take this risk. Why? No, not because I got rid of my risk averseness that was ingrained in me as an immigrant Asian child. No. Stuff does not happen that quickly. There is definitely a reasonable explanation for why I was willing to take that risk. And it's because I actually had an MBA offer. So Master of Business Association, so same business degree that Sean is currently pursuing at Columbia Business School. Basically, I applied as a senior at Caltech to deferred MBA programs where you get into an MBA program and then you, as the name says, defer 2 to 5 years. So in those 2 to 5 years, you gain full-time work experience. That's because the normal MBA program is where people will apply the year before they plan to matriculate. So I was feeling like, ooh, great. The point of this deferred MBA program is so we can take more risks and try new things and explore and be a leader within the deferral period. So I'm going to do what they say because why not? Like when else am I going to have this like offer far into the future where in these 2 to 5 years I can just really have that freedom to explore. I feel like that's so hard nowadays, especially when you grow up and then you graduate college and like every decision seems more and more critical. Like you have to accumulate skills in this certain specialty. And then if you picked wrong, God forbid, then like, yeah, you can switch, but it's a lot harder too because then you are already set behind and perhaps you didn't have the right degree and then XYZ, right? So essentially, I felt like this was kind of hard to come by. Granted, and now I understand just simply because I've become more entrepreneurial and I've gained more entrepreneurial friends that we kind of do have some freedom in our 20s to explore at least like much more than other ages. But it just feels like there's a lot more stress and pressure put on in your 20s because you're like, oh, on one hand, I want to relax and have fun and explore the world while I'm still able-bodied and my bones don't crack and my joints don't crack. But then on the other hand, I should also be setting myself up career-wise and building good relationships, finding my place in the world, such that, when I'm in my 30s, I can be more stable, just like how, society tells. And for women, because we have a biological clock, then we can have a family and be ready and to settle down when the time comes, because time does not stop for anyone. So there's a lot of that conflict in your 20s. I digress a bit. But anyway, so time goes on while we were living in New York City. And 2024, last year, I hit 500,000 subscribers. And then, woo, I'm like, great. I can proceed with my plan as planned of attending MIT Sloan for a business school in the fall of 2025. So basically, before moving to New York, Sean and I were like, okay, we're going to do 2 years at Columbia Business School in New York City. Sean's going to recruit for Boston offices. So he actually got an internship at BCG, the Boston office, last summer. And the plan was then fall of 2025, we would both move to Boston. So then I could start my MBA and he can start at BCG Boston. And it actually worked out, to be quite honest. Like, we feel very lucky and grateful that he was able to secure an offer. It's like, we're just like, wow, how is it that like we don't really have our lives figured out, but yet we can still always live together in the same city, right? And I realize that's actually kind of hard to come by, especially knowing that my sister and her boyfriend now, like, they are long distance. That seemed all good, right? So January of this year, so January 2025, it's time for me to attend some welcome events for MIT Sloan. MIT Sloan's business school program has this welcome weekend where prospective students, so like regular applicants and deferred admits, like all the people who got in, will, check out MIT to see if that's where they decide to go. And for us deferred applicants, we already committed, technically. We already said yes to MIT because we've been paying a deposit every single year, right? So like every single year we have to pay, I think, like $800 to hold our spot in the MBA program. So la-di-da, I was like so ready to like meet friends, and I was just like prepared to matriculate, right? But I was also aware that like before the deadline of paying our final deposit and deciding to matriculate, that supposedly we were supposed to see if we get any scholarship. Basically, I think like time was just ticking by and I still didn't get any news of scholarship, and I was like pretty distraught. So I think there's like a longer explanation video that I filmed some other time. So I'm not going to go into all the details and like all the internal conflict I had regarding that period and then the decision of MIT Sloan, that is. But when I went to the welcome weekend, I like literally got a hat. I wanted to buy a sweatshirt or something, but I didn't buy one because they gave me one for free. And then I was like, man, these classmates, prospective classmates here, like, oh, they're pretty nice, but like I still really just like my creator friends more. And I feel like I vibe more with entrepreneurial folks. And what's funny is like a lot of the prospective students, they said that they wanted to go to MIT to do entrepreneurship. And so in my mind, and like what actually I've talked about this with my entrepreneurial friends who are very successful in YouTube and business, and we're kind of like, you know what? Isn't it kind of fake that you have to go to business school to start a business? Like if you really could start a business or you wanted to, you can just do it without business school. And so that was always some kind of doubt in my head. And actually, when I started getting YouTube success, people kept asking me like, oh, why are you going to business school? And I'm just like, oh, for the experience and XYZ. And I realized just recently that I didn't really have good answers. And it's not really good to pay almost $200,000 in tuition for not a good reason. So you might be able to see where this is leading to. Thus, when it came time to pay my final deposit and be like, hey, I'm actually matriculating the fall of 2025, I had so much hesitation. This was when Sean and I were actually in Guatemala in February, like planning our wedding, because our wedding's in Guatemala. I was just so distraught. I was like, oh my gosh. At the welcome weekend, I learned that this one guy got a $90,000 scholarship. And, I'm just going to say this as like objectively as possible, but like, and his stats weren't as like good as mine. And, like it was no Caltech. And I'm not just saying like, oh, I'm great, but I'm just like, oh, like it would be nice to be rewarded for some of my hard work or like achievements, right? And that kind of just made me very sad because throughout all of the years in the deferral program, I was expecting to get some scholarship because, MIT Sloan is not like the top of the top business schools. And so typically they do give scholarships. And this guy who got the scholarship, it was simply because he had another competing offer because he is a regular applicant. Anyway, I was just like, crap, I feel scammed because deferred applicants, even if they do deserve a scholarship, because technically it's actually a lot harder to get into the deferral program, well, the schools have no incentive to give them money. That was my first business lesson, first big business lesson from business school, before business school even started. Molded over, and there was this deep feeling inside of me that this isn't right, and I didn't want to do this. And also I felt like it was the wrong time because I had so many more business things and YouTube things I wanted to do and try that like school, as much as I thought I could balance both and even let school complement my business, I was like, actually, this is too much. It would actually be an obstacle. And again, that's silly, right? Why would you pay like $90,000 a year for an obstacle? So I decided to defer another year. I'm going to fast forward a little because I know like this is a lot of context, but it's very needed before the big decision that we decided today. We had another big decision today. Decided to not do the Deferred MBA program, but we're like, okay, let's build the business and attend in fall of 2026. But there was always this nagging feeling inside of me still like, just because I don't attend this year doesn't mean that like I should still attend at all, right? And the idea was like, oh, let's like apply to another program so you have a competing offer because your GMAT score hasn't expired. So for those who don't know, your GMAT score is like the SAT or ACT of business school, and that test score lasts you for 5 years. So I could apply to, Harvard or Stanford again, or like Wharton just to get a competing offer. But that just didn't sit right with me because I was like, oh, I've gotten rejected by these programs so much. And at this point, I just really trust in like me using my time and effort into something that I know will pay off, right? Because like in applications, they're just viewing a 2D like 10-page application of you, right? It's not a full picture at all, but like I understand myself the best, and I know that I can be like building a business with a time that I would be like writing an application, trying to please someone else, right? So after some discussion with other friends and blah, 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 I decided perhaps no MBA at all. And I'm still in the like deferral pool for MIT Sloan. I haven't like completely turned them down, but that is to say that that is a plan right now. Then people asked, oh, well, why do you have to like you're still going to Boston, right? And I was like, yeah, because Sean's job is there. His full-time offer in consulting is going to be in Boston. However, one night I went out to K-barbecue and karaoke with some friends. Had a glorious time. I felt so grateful. I was like, I love this city. I love these people. And I came back and I was like, Sean, you know what? I'm actually really sad that we're leaving. And for the first time, I actually feel like I'm leaving stuff behind, because when I moved from Colorado and then moved from LA and San Diego, I didn't really feel like I was leaving stuff behind. I was so excited for what's to come. But in this case, I was like, I feel like it would actually be a net loss. 30 minutes later, Sean's like, why do we need to move to Boston? And I was like, oh, well, because of your job. And he's like, no, I can ask for an internal transfer. And I was like, whoa. This just like light bulb moment of like, wait a minute, why are we moving? And then 2 days later, we got a call after we put in the request, and then he got it. So we were staying in New York City as far as, the general area, but we're like, oh, let's still move to Jersey, because the plan was to actually get a dog in Boston, because Sean's like, oh, well, you won't have many friends in Boston if I am working and you're not in school, but we're just in Boston, right? Because, so basically we decided to get a dog right after I made the decision of deferring another year. And it was because then it could keep me company while I was in Boston without creator friends and without school starting yet. So yeah, that's why we decided that we're still going to move, but move to New Jersey instead, so we can take the PATH train to go to New York City. And Sean can work there, blah, 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 right? And other reasons were like, oh, we always wanted to expand to a 2-bed, because when we moved to Boston, it's like, oh, we can expand to a 2-bed because rent is cheaper than in Manhattan. And similar to Jersey, Jersey will still be cheaper than Manhattan. Plus, we later realized like, oh, actually, this might have some tax benefits as well, because if you are a business in New York City, you get an additional tax. So many, many reasons for that. And oh my gosh, I surprised my friends with this news and they were so happy. And after everything, I just felt so much relief. And that's when you know it's the right decision, right? So what happened today? Well, this morning I was just in the kitchen drinking water or something. And then Sean's like, oh yeah, Amy, we need to freeze our gym membership. So in our current building, we have this really nice gym. It's essentially a lifetime in our building. It's an additional gym membership fee, but it's just like so convenient because obviously there are seasons in New York City. So when it's snowy and cold, it's brilliant that you can just go downstairs without having to put on a puffer coat, and you can work out, and you can go to the sauna, you can go to the steam room. We even have a swimming pool, which we have not been taking advantage of. But anyway, this gym is great because yesterday the outdoor pool also opened because it's finally summerish in New York. And so Sean's like, oh, we need to freeze our membership. And he's like, oh, wait, so we're gone May and June and I'm back July, but then we move in July because our lease comes up in July. And I was like, wait, so do we just cancel the membership? And he's like, oh yeah, I guess. And suddenly I felt so sad. I was like, wait, it feels so much more real that we're leaving this apartment now and leaving this life where so much has been created and built in this apartment. So I started being like, oh my gosh, shoot. First of all, some like kind of like not so good reasons also, where like I was like, oh, but I didn't film enough clips in this gym, or like, now that we're actually leaving, like we need to film an apartment tour in this apartment. But then time is so short because we're literally leaving for Asia for almost 2 months next Friday. So man, it was just a lot going on, where I went downstairs, I asked about how to cancel, but I didn't fill out the paperwork yet because I was just like messaging Sean like, hey, like I don't know about this, like I still want to use the gym when I'm back, a couple weeks earlier than you in June. So I started working out at the gym and I was just like thinking through, oh my gosh, okay, I need to do 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z, all of these things in this apartment. While it's still here, I'm going to invite Angel and my friend Kathy to use the gym with me here so we can experience the outdoor pool before all of this is gone. And I was just thinking like, oh my gosh, there's still other things that I wanted to do here. Like I wanted to film some clips and enjoy the river next to our apartment as well. And yeah, it just suddenly hit me, and it's like, oh, we're actually leaving. I came back up from the gym and I looked at, our like hooks in the back. I hung my jacket up and I was like, dang, all this work where we like hung stuff up on the wall. We like tried to optimize our space. Like we're just gonna have to start all that over. And I was also thinking, man, I just feel like we didn't take advantage of this enough. But like, to be fair, with life moving so quickly, it's like, how can you really take advantage of everything, right? And we're not like robots, so we cannot actually optimize every single thing in our lives. But anyway, Sean came up to eat lunch, and I was like, do we have to move? Something like that. I said something like that. And he's like, yeah, actually, I've been thinking of this idea for like the past few days. And I was like, whoa. And I was like, wait, like, isn't this more convenient for work? Because literally Sean can just take the bus to his work. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is actually so reasonable. And we just got so hyped. And that's how you know, like, that's the right idea. Because we had this exact same reaction when Sean said, why do we need to move to Boston? We're just like, whoa, an aha moment. And we talked it through. We're like, actually, yeah, it's like, it would be so much better to not move because we had so many moving pieces this year. Like, we're going to go to Boston, business school. We had the Guatemala wedding. We had the China wedding and trip. And then we now have a honeymoon. And we also wanted to build on the business before Sean starts his full-time job in January 2026. Not only that, but for this Asia trip that we're leaving for on next Friday, not only are we doing like China for a month and then doing the China wedding and hitting a few Southeast Asia countries, but Sean's going to go to Mongolia after. He's going to go hike in Mongolia for a week or so while I come back to New York. And by that time, it's like, when are we actually moving to Jersey? And would I have to move myself? And I was also like, man, when am I going to throw a going away party? And am I going to have to throw a going away house cooling party without Sean? And then also, how am I going to work out if we don't have the gym membership anymore? And then I was like, oh, but also Sean and I, we want to work on the business a lot more and just hit the ground running once we get back from our Asia trip. But with the move, everything just so much more chaotic and it'll take time to settle in. And then as excited as we were about like having an additional bedroom and create that as a studio and, you know, like get a couch and like decorations and things like that, it's still a little bit of lifestyle creep, I would say, where it's nice, but it's not the most necessary and it'll still be costly, right? And let's be real, right? Like, moving is a lot of time and effort, and time is money. Not only that, but it actually is just like more convenient for Sean to commute to work from where we currently live. And so everything was just so reasonable that like we made the decision like, oh, okay, we're 95% sure we're gonna stay in this apartment now for at least another year. And that was that. So fast. So crazy. And then we actually had some apartments we were going to tour in Jersey in 2 days. And Sean's like, should I just cancel them? And I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I agree, because it'll still take time. And then we're probably not going to move anymore. Not at least until next year. And this way, Sean can feel out as a new job whether or not he actually goes into the office enough to need to live closer, right? Or maybe we could just move to Jersey next year. And, you know, to add on to why this is reasonable, because of the honeymoon that Sean booked recently, that's in November, December, for literally, it's crazy, it's for literally like 40 days. It's traveling to a bunch of countries because he used a lot of credit card points. We decided we're going to push back getting the dog. And so no dog, no need for bigger apartment either, and grassy areas. So ta-da, we live one more year in Manhattan, the New York City life. And wow, it's kind of like, okay, so all the things to unpack here. First of all, we are kind of staying more in the younger, exploratory life. Because if we move to Jersey, yeah, we can say we still have access to New York City, XYZ, right? But there's a lot higher activation energy. Not only to like go to the gym, which is what we want to do on a daily basis because we really care about fitness and health, but also just to go to events in general. And like my friends are in the city, like again, like social stuff is in the city, like work beneficial stuff is in the city. And so we would be moving away from all the energy. No, what is that word? We would be moving away from all of the activity, essentially. And not only that, but like we would be spending more money on comfort in terms of like a bigger place, but now we can still stay in our tiny little 600 square foot apartment, and we'll just be a little more creative about how we can both work in the same apartment and how I can film with a better background and XYZ. So it's so interesting. It's like we were going to gradually move more and more into like the settled, quote unquote, like, you know, well, not quote unquote, because we're actually married, but like the settled, stable life. But it's like, hey, actually, let's do another year where we are in Manhattan living this younger exploratory life. And the funny thing is that even though I defined it as that, it's actually more convenient for us overall, right? Because when there are too many moving pieces, what I'm realizing for myself, it's like you can't really do it all. And if you try to do it all, it's like often not even worth the pain. So why not just take things easy and optimize and index toward convenience and, you know, not make trouble for ourselves by like moving. Because then we're like, wait, why do we have to move? So here are the lessons that come out of this, right? So first of all, a big one is like you always have to question things, especially with my decision of like not going to the MBA anymore. So I had this identity and we had this expectation that I was going to go to Sloan in the fall of 2025. And we had that expectation and plan for like 3 years. So we didn't really feel the need to question it again. But what's interesting is that people would still question me and like ask me, but I would just be like kind of in my head, like stubborn, like, oh, this is the way it always is. Like I'm definitely going, and thus I have to create a reason to still do the MBA. But that's not right, because we always want to ask why and be a thinker, not just a doer. And that's how we can be the CEO of our own lives and create our own adventure, essentially. Always have to reevaluate. And so it's not that like external forces question you, but you have to do some internal questioning yourself, and things have to make sense. And we realized that with like the staying in New York City decision too, like the decision of not going to Boston. It's like, actually that's pretty obvious, but we didn't think of it because we were just so siloed into this expectation, and we already had a vision of what our future was, and so we just stuck with that. But even if you have already made a decision like far into the future, that doesn't mean that that decision was the best one, right? Because things can change, and you want to make sure that like your circumstances and desires still line up with that past decision. So that's the first thing I've just learned, like always question stuff, even if it's like already a decision you made, especially if it's one that you made for the future. The other thing is like we have to make sure to 抓紧. That's Chinese for like hold tightly. It's this term for like, you know, grab tightly onto time or grasp tightly onto opportunities. So I felt like, man, when everything is good and normal, you just kind of live every day and you're like, oh, this is the way that things are. And so I don't have to go to, you know, the sauna every day, or like I don't have to take advantage of Manhattan every day, right? But when that thing goes away or it's about to go away, then you're like, oh my gosh, now I have to have this greater sense of urgency. And I think maybe that's just like human nature and why we procrastinate on things, as much as I try not to. But it just expands to this case where basically only when I realized, oh man, I'm not going to have access to this great gym downstairs anymore and blah, blah, blah. I'm like thinking through all the group classes I need to take or like the workouts I need to do. And on a daily basis, sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'm so busy with work. Oh, I can do this, this, this. And there's always more to do, especially if you're a business owner. There's always more you can do. And then I let that get in the way of like working out every day sometimes. And so the idea is like you have to understand the value of something before it might be taken away from you. It's often like fighting against human nature, honestly, because like there's that quote, it's like, oh, people only realize how good something was when it's gone, and it's only the absence of that thing that makes you realize, oh, that thing was good, right? And so this is a lesson that like, hey, with this apartment, for example, I have to grasp tightly onto this chance before it's gone. And then in life as well, instead of just being like, oh, I have time or I have blah, 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 like we can expand this apartment example into life and be like, hey, actually, we always need to have this attitude that like we don't have forever. And this is also something I learned, I guess, when I experienced like COVID too. It's like I actually do think I made the most of my college years before COVID hit. And so even though I lost the last 1/3 of my college experience, I didn't really have regret because I lived as if it could be my last day in college, like basically on a daily basis, right? Or I say like weekly basis, right? Like every week we plan something fun, and we didn't wait just for senior year to plan fun things to do. So that's the other lesson. 2 tips / lessons branching off of that lesson. So the previous lesson was like, 抓紧, or like grasp tightly onto whatever it is, like whether it's time or the opportunities or the environment that you're in, because it might not be forever, right? So the first one that branches off of that is try to think ahead, consider what a decision actually means before it comes. So what I mean is like we were always planning to like move out of this apartment, and we were gonna do this rush of like moving right after Sean gets back from Asia, and possibly I would have to move a lot myself before he even gets back, depending on when we have the new apartment. And then this chaos of like, oh, should we do a cooling down party, blah blah blah, right? And so that's what we were planning to do. And it sounds crazy now because I'm like, oh, I can't believe like we were willing to do that. But only once the reality and implications of this decision loom closer, where like today I had the wake up call like, oh, hey, actually, we are going to lose membership to this gym. And hey, actually, we are truly going to move out of this apartment. Only when that hit and it came closer that I'm like, oh, actually, that's not very reasonable, or like that's actually too much trouble. And so what I realized is we should have thought through what the actual reality would be and the implications before it's like so much more tangible. Which, granted, like we're still making this decision like at a good time. Like it's not like we're already moving or like actually we should have stayed. But the idea is like we can always try to like time travel a little more to walk through the motions of what our decision would mean, and to feel the difficulty, the downsides or upsides of that decision before it becomes too late, And so that's the idea of that, like branches off of like grasp things tightly. It's like we have to be able to, I don't know, like envision or like simulate what the result would be before it comes or before it becomes visible. Like just like when you lose something, right? It's like, oh, only when you lose something, then you're like, oh, this sucks. But if far before you lost that thing, you knew, oh, it would suck if I lost it, then you would actually use that opportunity to a greater extent. You would take advantage of that opportunity more if you could predict into the future accurately that losing this opportunity would suck. That's lesson number 1. Hopefully that was clear. Well, lesson number A, coming off of, okay, that's too confusing. It's like the first lesson branching off of grasp tightly lesson. It's interesting, right? Only with the trigger from today were we able to snap into, oh, let's try and decide whether this is actually the best decision, Only when we could really feel that we were about to lose this were we like, let's try to figure out a way to not lose it, because actually we weren't that okay with losing it. The second lesson that branches off is that people always want change and think that will make their lives better. Because I was like, oh, only once we get the big apartment, then it'll be more spacious and I can organize my stuff better, and then I can film more things I want. I can film with higher quality. I can make my podcast look nicer. I will possibly have more different videos that I can make. There was all this like hopeful optimism that came with the change. And at the same time, when things were messy here in my current life, I'm just like, it's okay. It'll be different soon. But there's this quote that's like, wherever you are, there you are. It's like, wherever you as a person are in the world, you are still you, and you still carry those same habits or whatever, negative things too, like baggage, trauma, XYZ, right? And so things don't magically change simply because you're in a different environment. Environment helps a lot, of course, but I think like it's kind of twofold. Like humans on one hand crave change, and then on the other hand they really crave comfort and don't want change. For me, I was like, oh, things will be better if like once we move, and then like Sean was also excited about moving, and like there's something excited about like a change in scenery and like, oh, what new things can this bring us, right? But because we were so focused on what the new things can bring us, we didn't think as much about the losses that we would experience from our current life. But it's so important to consider that at the same time, because we typically take those things in our current life and in our current apartment for granted. And because we take them for granted, then we don't even understand at the time that it would be a loss until it's gone. Further, because we expect to change apartments, we're not as creative in our current lives about making this current apartment work for our desires. Not only that, but we also don't take advantage of the great things in our current life and situation. That's something that I realized about this too. And so I guess the overarching message is to always reevaluate, to continually evaluate. And I say that with a lot of caution too, because I'm a chronic overthinker. I think, but it just really shows the value and importance of not living on autopilot and letting people think for you, and not letting your past self decide things for you too, honestly. Wow, that's another realization. It's like my past self made these decisions for current me, but current me is like, oh, something's not right, And so like, question it. Question what the internet's telling you. Question what your friend is telling you. Just question everything. Take more time to sit down with your thoughts and without the stimulations of the digital world. Consider what your real world could be like, because that's what's important, right? And like when you are thinking with and sitting with your own thoughts, you are contributing to your real world, because you are understanding your real world better. It always ties back in a little bit into like use less social media. But I'm very excited about these crazy decisions we've been making recently, and this relief I feel of proceeding as normal, like carry on in this apartment, because we're going to be making some big moves in terms of like business and like pursuits, ventures as well. It makes me know that this is the right choice. So it's a lot of relief. And the funny thing is, we're like, wow, our friends are like never going to believe us for anything anymore, because we keep telling them things with so much conviction because that's what we believed in ourselves, but then we literally change our minds in like 5 minutes. Like on a single day, we change our minds on big decisions too in 5 minutes. But I'm also just grateful that my now husband, I need to get used to that word. I'm grateful that my husband, I'm going to say teammate, he is the best teammate. I'm grateful that my teammate, Sean, and I think so similarly, and we're in this together. Whatever happens, we're in this together. We can make the most of whatever life brings us and whatever decision we end up going with. So, yeah, that's how to be the CEO of your life. That's this episode lesson. It's very spontaneous filming. I was like, oh, I gotta quickly shower, and that's why my hair's wet, so then I can brain dump all of the thoughts I had after this decision. And I've been wanting to update for a long time, and I don't know when I'll post this, but I'm glad that I can just brain dump it at once. I find that I'm like more type B than I thought. It's like when I have all these thoughts swirling around, I just have to say it now, because even sometimes when I want to film a video but I'm not in that like mode, then I just literally cannot find anything to say, which is weird, right? But I'm just like, I just stumble a lot more. But like in today's, all the words were just like and like came out really quickly, and I hope it was understandable. But yeah, you learn more and more about yourself the more and more things you try, and the more and more experiences you experience in life. Okay, bye. Thank you for listening to me ramble. Hope this was helpful. Oh yeah, make sure to subscribe and comment your thoughts and recommend this to a friend, because this is a passion project and I would really love it if I could keep doing it as well. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, then leave this a 5-star review. Thank you. Bye-bye.